Hey guys, welcome to Rotor Riot. Today we're taking a look at the all-new DJI FPV drone.
This drone is made by DJI and it is more similar to our freestyle drone. So this drone is capable of all of the freestyle drone tricks that we do, but it also has some other beginner modes, so it can fly similar to the other DJI camera drones that
this is unlike a drone DJI has ever made before.
Yeah.
This can fly very similarly to the drones that they have made before, like the Mavics and the Phantoms, with GPS hold, altitude hold, all the assistances that you might be used to if you've flown a DJI product before. But what makes this special is two things. You can pilot it FPV, first-person view with low latency. Not like the screen you're looking at the Mavic.
Like in the goggles, full FPV mode.
And you see the motion of the drone.
Yeah.
And all those flight assistances we were talking about, you can turn all that off. You can fly this thing in full acro. You can do flips, power loops, all the things that we do here on Rotor Riot that maybe you've never seen before. Maybe you're not familiar with what FPV means. And I think that's exactly what this drone is for. This is a drone created to help get people into FPV, to make it easy for them to fly FPV and ease them into the world of full acro drone flight. So I can't wait to get this thing in the air, but before we get to that, let's see what all do you get when you buy this drone.
A lot of you guys have been waiting to see DJI come out with something like this, and personally, I am very interested to see. I'm going into this with no expectations. Let's get the box open and see what we got. Here we have the DJI FPV drone. I'm gonna break all these components down. Looks like the same goggles. I believe there might be some differences, but visually speaking, they look the exact same. Ooh, okay, this is kind of slick. This is the DJI FPV drone controller. I do really like the form factor. It reminds me of some other radios that are on the market. And then besides that, we got some props. We have B props and A props. One thing that can be really complicated when it comes to drones is figuring out what prop goes where. So on this one, I can already tell they've labeled it out of the box. You have B and you have A. I want to hear it boot up. Whoa. Whoa. That was so cool. Looks like this is gonna be our accessories, cords. Looks like we have another pod. It looks like that's for the shell out here. So if you want to change the look of the shell. Looks like we got some cords. What I find interesting, and I was very curious, the FPV goggles usually power off of a LiPo battery. And it doesn't look like they've included a normal size LiPo battery, but they give you a cord. So this is actually really an awesome feature, because normally in the past you have to use a LiPo battery, which for anyone who flies drones, it's no problem, but it looks like now you can power your FPV goggles through one of these guys. So I kind of like not having to dedicate drone batteries. And here we have our FPV antennas. These screw onto the DJI goggles. This looks to be a USB to Type-C. These look like they are stick ends. They go on the side of the radio now. It looks like the radio comes with stick ends already. To put these on, they're really simple. They just screw on. So out of the box, it's got a flip up antenna. Really, really nice for being able to transport your drone, because you want to fly with your antenna up like this. But when you're transporting it, you can pop it in like that. This isn't a new idea or a new concept. There's some drone controllers on the market that already do this, but I'm very happy to see DJI following the trend and incorporating it. The gimbals, they feel pretty good. DJI's gimbals have always felt really good to me. I don't like how they don't have a lot of resolution. More resolution you have, which is in theory the more control throw that you have, easier it's gonna be to make small movements. When you have kind of like smaller gimbals, it can be really, really hard to fly smooth. FPV goggle wise, these goggles look the exact same as the first ones. I was really hoping to see a smaller version of the DJI goggles. I know a lot of people have been holding off on buying goggles because there's been rumors of a V2, and I personally have gotten used to the size of them, and I really love how beautiful the image in the screen is. So I don't really think about it anymore. However, it would be nice to see a more sleek goggle. I mean, they've shaved the controller size down, it looks like, so I would love to see this get smaller in the future. Finally, the drone, which I still don't know how to turn off. Looks like we have our FPV camera up here. I'm assuming this is gonna be a pretty darn good camera. It may be upgraded from the previous one, considering it's all integrated. I'm assuming this camera is probably gonna be pretty good. The motors look pretty good. They feel really good as well. They're not your standard drone motor. They're very DJI proprietary. The props snap into place, and it looks like that's pretty much the only way to do it. Besides that, it feels really rigid. It Definitely feels heavy, so I'm very curious to see how this.
All right, so we're checking out some of the different flight modes that you have available here. This is your flight mode switch. In the top position, that's normal. Middle position is sport, and all the way down will be manual if you've done the things that you need to actually enable manual. So right now it actually is still in sport. So normal mode is pretty much like flying a Mavic. But you know what's different though? It does mixing. So as you're going forward and you give it yaw, it banks the turns.
Okay.
And you see the banking
turn with
happen.
just a yaw?
Yeah, you don't need to use the rolls. Sport modes just makes it faster and it enables cruise control. You get going fast or whatever speed you want, you can kind of pick your speed, hit this button here, this trigger, and now it's in cruise control mode and it just keeps flying forward, and then I can just steer.
That's kind of
actually cool. Just with one stick, but really you should train steering with two sticks. And what I find really interesting, this really is somewhat of an acro trainer, because when you're flying a drone in acro mode, you tilt it forward and it just keeps going forward, and then when you roll and yaw, you carry your momentum around the turn and keep going forward.
Right, you have to pull back to slow down.
Right. And
what happens if you do pull back? Does it?
It slows me down.
Okay, so you still have stick brake.
Yeah, you have a stick brake, but you also have a brake. So let's say I get going forward and I get a little panicked. I'm like, oh crap, this trigger up here, hit that, and it just whoo. Oh my god, did you hear that?
Yeah,
you go,
like, it slammed the brakes.
It slammed the brakes so hard I saw the frame coming to the camera view. Let me swap out the battery for you.
Oh, it's a little punchy.
Yeah.
The horizon's not flat.
Oh, well, because you're flying in the wind, so it's actually...
Oh, okay.
It's position holding.
It cooks? Oh, whoa, well, that is weird. That when you yaw, it banks.
Right? Having done FPV for a while, it's... Like, I almost don't like that, but I think it will really help people understand that when you turn, you need to bank it. I see a lot of people struggle with that when they're just starting FPV. Woo! Are you in normal mode? All right, so you're upside down.
Oh my gosh!
It
just saved it. It just saved itself. And it like yawned.
Amazing!
Oh, it says low battery, return to home. Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
Turned out pretty fast.
Sick.
It's way faster than a Mavic. That is so cool. All right, that's nuts.
Look at that. It does a thing. Like,
oh my gosh,
that's so cool.
He gets on me for being obsessed with like the adjustable camera angle or whatever, and he's over here obsessed with lights.
The lights! So what's the best way to go from unboxing this to flying in acro mode? The first thing I'd say you should do is take away the centering on the throttle stick right out of the box. Even though you're not gonna get to actual acro mode for a little bit, I'd say get used to it. When you're flying an FPV drone, you don't have centering on the throttle. And that's gonna be something that if you're used to flying a Mavic or a Phantom, that might take a little bit of getting used to. So I'd say right away, get rid of it and get used to flying without it, and it will teach you throttle control. Get comfortable flying around in normal mode, and then get your way into sport mode. And once you're in sport mode, getting used to those higher speeds, this might sound weird, use the cruise control mode. There's no cruise control on our drones. It does not really emulate how we fly our drones, but it does provide you with the feel. And what I mean by that is when you're flying in acro mode and you tilt the drone forward using the pitch stick and you return the pitch stick to center, the drone keeps flying forward. Cruise control simulates that feeling because you get going forward, you turn on cruise control, and it'll just keep going forward. And then you steer it at that speed, and you need to slow it down. It does not come to a stop when you center the stick. The next step would be really force yourself to move both of the sticks while you're turning. Something I don't like about this drone per se is that it builds in the banking to the yaw stick. So you can just steer this drone around only using yaw input, and as it goes around the turn, it automatically rolls to bank the turns for you, which, I mean, it's good because it gets you used to the visual of that happening. You need to learn that you need to do that yourself in manual mode. If you are in manual mode, going forward, and you just give it yaw, you can do that. You need to give it equal roll. Next step from there would be use the sim. DJI has a sim built into this whole system that you can fly with the goggles, with your radio and everything, and you can practice in manual mode in the sim with virtually no consequences. You're not gonna be crashing your real drone. So from there, get used to flying acro mode. And honestly, if you get very proficient flying in manual mode in the sim, you're not gonna have any problems. But let's be honest, you're gonna rush it. You're gonna feel like you know what you're doing, you wanna go straight to manual mode. That brings us to the final step. Put the drone in manual mode and keep your finger on the panic switch. The most impressive thing about this drone to me is just how well the panic switch works. You can be cooking at 60 miles an hour, flip upside down and go, I don't know what I just did, help! Hit the button and it goes, it just stops. It really just, it stops. It's crazy. Follow all these steps. It's kind of a weird set of steps. It's not really a set of steps that DJI outlined, but these are the steps that we think will yield the best success. We've been making videos for a long time about flying FPV drones because we think it's an amazing hobby, but it's always been a hobby that's been pretty difficult to get into because of how difficult it is to build the drones and how difficult it is to fly the drones. And this is a solution that leapfrogs you past both of those barriers and gets you flying right now. And eventually you'll be doing your own maintenance. You'll be flying a full acro drone and you'll be getting the full FPV experience. And this is a great way to start on that journey.